talked previously about having an initializer or a init dunder method to create instances of our custom class. And previously we just used self referring to the instance of the class. But more often than not, we want to store a data record as part of the class. And so we're going to use an init this time that has some variables being passed to it, and then to create some classable variables from those passed values. And then with those instances, we want to be able to store those in a collection. More often than not, we use list to contain the instances of our custom class data records. So before I get into the details of how that all works, let me show you the program that I put together to demonstrate this. And what I've done is create a program that will allow the user to enter items to purchase at the grocery store, along with an aisle that those items would be in, and then to be able to organize those for a printed checklist that we could take with us to the store. So I started with a set of menu choices, so we can add items, we can display this menu, we can print the shopping list, we can get an aisle reference, and we can exit the program. So if I press R for aisle reference, there's my aisle reference. So we've got a fairly simplified store here. Of course, we have our outside areas of bakery, dairy, frozen, meat, and produce. And then we have our 5 inner aisles. Aisle number 1 having canned vegetables, then cereal, coffee, soda, juice, water, pets and paper products, and hygiene and sundries in aisle 5. So the way I would add items is I'm going to press an A here for my menu choice. And again, I'm going to get the aisle reference printed at the beginning of this. At the bottom, you'll see add grocery list item. So I'm going to put milk on my list, and I'm going to find that in the dairy area. So that's letter D. And then if I want some bread, that's going to be in the bakery. Let's get some apples. That'll be in produce. While I'm there, I'm going to grab some bananas. I'm going to get some hamburger. That's going to be in the meat section. And I also then probably need hamburger buns. That'll be in the bakery section. I'm going to get some frozen asparagus. So I'm going to find that in the freezer section. Want some eggs, find that in the dairy. I'm going to find butter in dairy. So I'm not necessarily going aisle by aisle, just as I think of things I want to add in. Let's get something from the soda aisle. So let's get Coke, 12-pack. That's going to be aisle 3. If I don't know where something is, I can put a U for unknown, or I can, if I put any other number or letter, it will put it as an unknown value. I built that into the class designation. Let's get some toothpaste. That's going to be aisle 5. Oh yes, and Serenity reminded me we need milk bones for her. So that's aisle 4. Let's get some yams from the produce section. I also want some lettuce. I want a couple T-bone steaks. They'll be in the meat section. Some tomato soup, aisle 1. Some grapefruit juice. That's in aisle 3. Paper towels in aisle 4. And I also need some aspirin. And that's going to be in aisle 5. That's my list. If I just press enter for grocery item list, I can leave it blank and leave that one blank. And it quits out of adding items to my list. And now I want to print the list. So if I say P, there then is my shopping list ordered by aisle. Now we didn't get anything in aisle 2, but that's okay. So I have a little check box or item that I can check off on each one of those. It isn't sorting alphabetically within each of the aisles. We're going to add that in on the next video, but that's my program running. Now let's take a look at the code. So I'm going to start over here with the grocery item class. So here's my initializer, my double score, init double score. We always start with self, and then I'm going to pass it two items. One is the item, and one is the aisle location. Those are both going to be strings. So I'm going to store the item in a variable called description, which is part of self, part of the instance. So my variable name is description, pass item to that, and I'm going to take if aisle.upper is in this string. So these are the letters we used, B, D, F, M, P, 1 through 6. Actually, it should be 1 through 5. I only have 5 aisles. I'm going to verify it's a legit aisle. And I'll set self.aisle to aisle.upper. So I can put in lowercase letters. It'll change it to upper for me. If it's not in that list, then it's going to assign a U. And U is one of the choices I had. I didn't test for it here because I'm going to catch it in the else. But if I put in a 8 or an A, it's going to assign U as unknown. Then I used that dunder method we looked at previously of double underscore str, double underscore, passing itself. And I'm going to return basically 3 underscores and a space. That's going to be my little check mark line. The aisle, another couple spaces, and then the description. That's going to print out these items we have back here in our list. I'm going to save that file. I saved it as groceryitem.py with a lowercase g. My class starts with an uppercase G. Now let's take a look at my program. So in the program, I'm importing from grocery item, that's the file, I'm going to import my class of grocery item. Now I could just have said import grocery item with a lowercase g, that would have found the file. But then remember we have to do the file dot the class whenever we want to use that class. By importing it this way, I can just refer to the class and not the file dot class. So here's my main program. Putting the title, I'm going to create a list called shopping list. It's an empty list for now. I'm going to pass that list though to some of my other methods. I'm going to call the method display menu choices, and that's down here. All it does is simply print our different menu choices. I'm going to set choice equal to Z. Could have set it to anything I wanted as long as it wasn't an X, because then I use that as a sentinel value for my while loop of while choice does not equal X for exit. I'm going to ask the user to enter their choice, AMPRQ, and set that to upper. If it's an A, we're going to allow them to add shopping items in. We'll look at that in a minute. If it's an M, we're going to display the menu choices. Again, that's this method. If it's a P, we're going to print our list out. And if it's an R, we're going to display the aisle reference. Let's jump down to R first. So here's my aisle reference, just a little print routine of what's in the different aisles. Here's where I'm going to add the items. So if I press A, we're going to allow the user to enter an item and an aisle. So I start with a new item just equal to XYZ. Again, could have set that to anything as long as it wasn't a null string. I'm going to display the aisle reference. So to start, I'm going to print out this aisle reference automatically. And I'm going to remind them, enter nothing for the item to quit data entry. And then my sentinel value here using new item, while new item does not equal quote quote. So again, if they enter nothing for the data item, then we'll quit out of this. Otherwise, we're going to ask them to enter their item. We put that in a variable called new item. And then we'll ask them to enter a location, so which aisle for the new item. And I used an F string here, interpolating the new item value. And again, show them what they can enter here, 1 through 5, B, D, F, M, P, U. We're going to append to my list calling the grocery item class and pass it the new item and the new location. So the new item comes into item, the new location comes into aisle, and then it places those values in description or aisle of our data record. So we're going to store each data item in my list, but my list, if you remember, was passed as shopping list. So it's going to return that to shopping list. So shopping list will grow as we add more items. When we're done, we can print P to print the list, and here's our print routine. I'm going to print my shopping list. I'm going to print a heading here for aisle 1, and then for every item in my list, an item is going to be a grocery item, because remember, my list is a collection of grocery items. So for every item in my list that has an aisle designation of 1, we're going to print the item. If there's anything else, we're not going to print it. And then we're going to print the aisle 2 header, and again, using that for item in my list, we're going to look to see if the aisle of that item is 2, and if it is, we're going to print it. Now we print the item, it's going to call this strdunder method and return our 3 little underscores for our check mark, a space, the aisle designation, a couple spaces, and the description that was entered. And we'll do the same thing then for aisle 3, 4, 5. Then we have our bakery, dairy, frozen, meat, produce, and anything that's unknown. They put in an invalid aisle location, not 1 through 5, or BDFMP. That's going to go in this unknown area. Maybe we don't know which aisle it's in. Maybe it's something we might get at the cash register, like postage stamps, or we might pick up ice on the way out the door. That would all probably fall under unknown. So that is how this program works. I would encourage you to go back through and create this program using the code. So you can pause, enter the code, enter the definition for add items, our function for print shopping list. Let me scroll down here. So again, you can pause as you need. And don't forget the main statement at the very end that will run the program. If you don't have that, nothing will happen. And then also create your grocery item.py file, very short file, and then test it. Enter some items and make sure you get an item in each aisle to make sure that each aisle works correctly. What we're going to do in the next video is learn how to sort this using another dunder method. If you just jumped into this video and haven't seen the prior videos to this, I invite you to check out my Python playlist of videos. And if you'd like to be alerted to future videos that I create, you can click my picture up in the top right and subscribe to the channel.